Morning, church. It has been a long week for me. I don't know about some of you. And I found that the week grew longer, especially when you have to battle with an illness. I didn't realize that, you really had to use so much strength to fight this battle that is going on in your body, until you suddenly came to the realization that, you have used so much energy, your body also doesn't have any more energy to heal itself. Anyway, speaking about long weeks, as I look at John chapter 13, which actually is going to be our scripture reading. I think we missed out the scripture reading today. Can we have the scripture reading? Okay, there's the scripture reading there. And scripture reading says there in verse 1, John chapter 13, now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come and that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. This whole chapter is about Jesus washing the feet of the disciples and having the Last Supper with disciples. I just want to share 3 things this morning about what I learned about foot washing. In verse 1 itself, I learned that Jesus loved his own up to end. He loved them who were in the world. He loved them to the end. What does it mean he loved them to the end? Which means to say, his love did not in even one single moment waver for his disciples. I learned also that Jesus not only loved his disciples, but in a short while he is going to demonstrate how much he loved them. Question is this morning, do you feel love? Do you feel love when you came to church this morning? Do you feel love when you're sitting there in church? Do you have somebody who loves you? Maybe some of you have come this morning feeling empty, some feeling very lonely, some feeling very drawn. But be rest assured, Bible tells us Jesus loved his own right to the very end. Because the scripture says in the book of Romans chapter 5, verse 5 it says, but God commended his love toward us in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Jesus, if we read on in chapter 13, verse 3, Jesus, knowing that his Father had given him all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going to God. Jesus was in his last hours of his life on earth. Less than 24 hours, he will be crucified on the cross. And what did he do? Verse 5 tells us, after that he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel which was when he was girded. He washed his disciples' feet. He washed his disciples' feet. How many people were there during that Last Supper? I think there are 12 pairs of feet, right? I don't know of any of the disciples who were crippled. But as Jesus washed each pair of feet, he came to the feet, maybe first of John. Well, they say this particular feet, he's going to stay with me right to the end. And then he came to the other disciples, Thomas, this guy is going to run away, he's going to forsake me in a short while. And then he washed all the other disciples' feet. And then he washed the feet of Judas. Say, this pair of feet is going to betray me. But he still washed that feet. Maybe you are saying to yourself, Lord, I'm not worthy to deserve all this. But remember, Jesus, he washed not only the feet of those people who denied him, who forsook him, but who also betrayed him. Are you any worse than any of them? Have you betrayed Jesus before? Maybe. Maybe not, I'm not sure. But you can be very sure. Jesus, because having loved his own who are in the world, he loved them to the end. And Jesus not only washed the feet of the 12 of them, but today, Jesus, you have come here, Jesus in a way has washed our feet. He wants to wash our feet today. And when he came to Peter that particular evening, in verse 7, verse 6, then he came to Simon Peter, and Peter said to him, Lord, are you washing my feet? In verse 8, he says, you shall never wash my feet. That's how he said it. Because he just could not stand the sight of a master washing the feet of a disciple. And Jesus gave this answer, verse 7. Jesus answered and said to him, what I'm doing, you do not understand now, but you will know after this. Yes, even though you feel love, you have to realize that many a times in life, there are things that happen to you that you don't understand. There are things that don't seem to go according to what you planned out to be. There are things that have happened many times in our life which we never expect, which bring pain, which bring a lot of hardship. Does it mean to say that when Jesus loved the ones that he loved to the end, you don't experience these kind of things? Maybe sometimes because of that love, you experience those things. And when you begin to think and doubt whether he loves you or not, remember the words that he said in verse 7. What I'm doing, you do not now understand, but you will know after this. You will know after this. If God were to show us what is going to happen to each and every one of our lives in the future, how many of you would like to know that? How many of you would like to know what is going to happen to you for your future? Those of you not married, you really want to know? You really, really want to know? You really want to know? Okay? Ask him. You really want to know? I can only share the experience of my wife who related to me. He said, if I had known I had to suffer so much pain giving birth, I wouldn't have even think of having a child. Still want to know? You want to know all the painful things that is going to happen to you in the future? God, in his divine wisdom, has said these words, what I am doing, you do not understand now, but you will know after this. You will know after this. So, if you are going through a pretty rough time in your life, remember his words. What I'm doing, you do not now understand, but you will know afterwards. You see, The third thing that I learned about the feet washing account here in the book of John 13 is that in verse 13, verse 15, he says, "For I have given you an example that you should do it as I have done unto you." And going further down, he says, verse 17, "If you know these things, happy are you if you do them." How many of you want to be happy? I don't think anybody here today do not want to be happy. But how do you find happiness? Do you go and pursue happiness in order for you to obtain happiness? No. Happiness comes as a result of what? Doing something for people. Giving. The word that gives a lot of happiness is the word giving. Giving of your time, giving of your love, giving of yourself to others. Just as Christ, He loved His own who are in the world, and He loved them right to the end. He gave and gave and gave. And He says, if you know these things, happy are you if you do them. I'd like to leave these thoughts with you this morning as we enter into the foot washing ceremony.